All right. Welcome back to the Landmark Theater. We're streaming live on Breitbart News, and we thank Larry Solov, who is also here and I meant to recognize as well. We've just watched a very powerful documentary. It's an important documentary, and now we're going to talk about it with some of the folks that made it happen. On the very end, we've got Agent Chris Cabrera, who is Vice President of Border Patrol National Council Local 3307 in McAllen, Texas. The next gentleman I have not had the pleasure of meeting. So.
I'm Assemblyman Tim Donnelly.
Thanks for coming. Jenny Beth Martin, the president of the Tea Party Patriots, who makes things run, makes the trains run on time. We got Mark Hager from North Carolina, college professor, who really was the driving force behind this. He came to Jenny Beth with an idea. He said, I've got contacts with the border sheriffs. Let's do this thing. And wow, we've got a movie. So Mark Hager. And finally, Luke Livingston, the director and producer. Man, I got to tell you, you'll probably remind me that I've said this, but that was fantastic. It really was. We're going to just take a few minutes and talk about how this thing came into being, and I'd like to start with Mark Hager. Mark, we talked about this in the pre-show. You had a network of contacts with border law enforcement agents, and you had tied them into grassroots networks around the country for support. Just give us the genesis of this project.
Well, this all started for me back in 2010, pretty much in the spring of that year. And, you know, like many of you, if you have an inquisitive mind and you want to find out what's happening, well, you know, you get a pen and a phone and you can call and try to get some answers. But, you know, to make the story a little bit short, a lot of this credit goes to the late sheriff of Cochise County, Arizona, and that was Sheriff Larry Deaver. We became close friends, and, you know, trying to get educated, he became my mentor through this process. And through his efforts and working with him, connected with sheriffs all up and down the border regions. And then I wanted to come right back, just like anybody else would, and talk to the sheriffs in your local area, your local county, your local state. Are you seeing these things that I'm hearing from Cochise or in Val Verde or Zapata or wherever along the border? And they said, well, yes, we are. And it's not getting out. And so the hope that I had putting this documentary together is that we can take all of those actions, all those things, all those threats that the residents along the border and the sheriffs have been trying as hard as they can to get out to to everyone, everywhere USA. And that's you guys. If the media won't cover it, well, we can. And,
absolutely.
And I think, Tea Party Patriots, I don't know of any organization that could have had enough forthright knowledge and be able to tackle such an endeavor as this. I mean, 2,000 miles of border and going county by county. Every sheriff of every county, they're all different. And they all have their own unique things, and I can't think of any organization that could do this.
Thanks. Well, that was a good idea, it turns out. Pretty good idea. So we're glad you had it. Chris Cabrera, 13 years yesterday with the Border Patrol, and he's the vice president of the local union. Yes. We talked a little bit before the show about how, and I didn't realize this until you and I got to visit last night, but how much of this thing is cartel driven. This is what's driving the train, is it not?
Yeah, everything down there on the river is run through the cartels, whether it's the actual cartel guys running it through themselves or somebody paying a tax to the cartels in order to get it done down to the particular spot, the particular time of when it's going to cross.
You showed me a picture that you got this very day before we came over here. That I think we'll get a shot of that and distribute it. But it was some West Africans that made the point of entry today.
Yeah, somebody sent a picture out today. It was some West Africans that are at one of the port of entries in South Texas, and they're just sitting outside with a little protective mask and gloves on, just sitting outside. No quarantine area, no nothing.
Scary stuff. And before ISIS and Ebola removed the border crisis from the news cycle, there was talk about Rick Perry maybe militarizing the border or putting troops on the border. We got troops on the border. They're like Chris Cabrera. There just ain't enough of them. Assemblyman Donnelly, immigration, legal and illegal, is an issue that's close to you. What are your thoughts after watching this film?
Well, I have to commend all of you for pulling this together, because I was one of the leaders of the largest Minuteman chapter in the state of California. So I lived on the border for 30 days. And I saw and met many of the same people that you featured. And the story hasn't changed. And, you know, like you said, the news cycle has been hijacked by ISIS and Ebola. But, you know, the ISIS and Ebola are not the greatest threat to our country. And I think your movie does a great job of illustrating that our government is the greatest threat to our freedom.
Jenny Beth Martin, heck of a premiere we've had here. We've had some fun. We're going to keep having fun, but it's important to focus on the issue at hand. How do you think this does as a call to action?
I think that it's very important that the people who watched it tonight and who are here go back and make sure that you have your family and your friends watch this film. It's available for free. The donations to Tea Party Patriots made this film possible. The grassroots idea and the local coordinators who approved this action are what made it possible. Our organization is a grassroots organization driven by people who donate an average of $48 a piece to Tea Party Patriots. And go and let your family and your friends watch it. Get the message out. Make sure people understand what's actually happening on the border. Make sure they understand what's happening with the sheriffs. And remind them that the sheriffs are who are called first when 911 is called in the area. And then make sure that people go, and when they vote, especially in the states where the Senate is in play and could switch from Democrat to Republican, that they consider this as they vote. We have to make sure that the current laws are enforced. And then after the election, we're going to hold the lame duck session of Congress accountable, and we'll be watching what the president does when he threatens executive amnesty. And Kevin, I want to ask one more thing. Chris, when I interviewed you, one of the things that you said that I think is so important is that you said that the job of Border Patrol isn't, essentially it's not to be a nanny or to be a nurse. It's to protect our country from terrorists and crime, and you're not able to do that right now with the influx. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, where a lot of times we're saddled down babysitting some of these people that come across. On top of that, with the hours cuts that they're doing, we're not out there patrolling like we should be, and there's vast portions of the border that are just uncovered.
They need our help. The sheriffs need our help, and we are able to do it. So let's do everything we can to get this message out across America.
Mr. Nick Searcy. So I'm thinking if you could have endeared yourself any less to the Hollywood elite, this might have done it. You got anything going on after this season of Justified?
Well, let's hope so. You know, I work too much as it is. So. But, you know, I'm just, when Luke asked me to do this, I'm proud to be able to help out any way I could. I mean, you guys did all the hard work, and I come in at the last minute and get my name on the poster, and but it's just, you know, I'm really something has to be done about this, and I'm proud to just stand with you guys, and hopefully they'll listen to us, you know. But you know, I did work pretty hard. I mean, that was a long day, Luke.
Yeah, there was a portion of our studio floor where you stood that we have enshrined. No one will ever work that spot again in our studio.
I mean, I've been to acting school. I don't know about you guys, but I've been to Nick Searcy's acting school. And you said sometimes y'all will work 30 or 40 days a year. I mean, does this count against those?
And some of those days can be as long as 8 to 10 hours.
Yikes. Nick, what is it you say about people that protecting? You say some people should do something. What is that you say about some people are concerned about this issue should lock their doors?
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing. The common sense about this is just, if you want open borders, why don't you want open front doors? I mean, don't you care who's coming in and out of your house? Yeah. And if you care who's coming in and out of your house, why don't you care who's coming in and out of your country? I mean, it just doesn't. I mean, just on the level of just wanting to know who it is. You know, that's the thing that gets me. It's like, if you don't know who's coming in, it could be some really bad people.
Absolutely.
And it is.
You got an opportunity to see the finished product, after you did your one, like, 6-ish hour day.
It was hard.
Lunch was good.
What stood out to you the most? Was it the Border Patrol agents and the sheriffs, or the people whose homes have been invaded? What to you was the most poignant part of the film?
Well, I guess the thing that I hadn't really realized was how many people are really dying in the desert trying to get across the country, trying to get into the country, and how our policies, our government's policies, it's not humanitarian to create a situation where they think they can come into the country and that causes them to come across the desert in droves and die there. I mean, that is not a humanitarian way to treat people, And that was the thing I think that I had not realized.
Luke Livingston, you put some time in from the Rio Grande Valley to New Mexico. You were there getting all the shots. What are some of the more poignant memories for you of the production itself?
Well, what Nick was talking about, that the intersection of our desire to be humane and the rule of law, that's really the crisis in this film. Because you have people that say, look, we need to be humane towards, dreamers, people that are dying to come across the border, things like that. But we have to have a rule of law, or it just falls into chaos, is what's happening now. When we came upon that woman lying in the ditch, she's lying in the ditch on her back at the side of a road, country road. Nobody was there. And we rushed up with the deputies because the driver had mentioned they saw this woman. And we got there, and she's lying on her back. She was all ripped up, scarred, and looked like she'd been abused by the environment. She'd been left behind. And that was a tough thing to shoot because we arrived on that scene, and it was a pretty powerful moment. I mean, it was scary. She's probably several hours away from dying, just like the people in Brooks County.
Yeah.
And that she was led to believe that she could have permiso and just come across and it'd be all good.
Yeah.
We can't send these kind of signals out as Americans. We just can't.
Assemblyman, you're an elected official, and immigration is a hot issue. Amnesty is a hot issue. And I'm asking not just about California, but what do you think it will take for politicians to gain the political will and fortitude to take this issue on? Is it a lost cause?
Well, it's certainly not a lost cause. And things like this film, which is so well done because it strikes a balance. You really told a complete story, and you brought a lot of issues up without making it just about one part of it because it's such a massive issue. But what it's going to take, politicians pay attention to polls. And as there was a poll even today on Breitbart, that even Democrats are now starting to become against amnesty again. And that is a credit to the American people for speaking out and saying, we want our country to be secure, and we want to be a country. And you can't be a country if you can't protect your borders and if you have no respect for the rule of law.
Yeah. Jenny Beth, the film features, I think, 3 of our really stalwart members of Congress in Jeff Sessions, Steve King, and Louis Gohmert. Something I don't think enough people are aware of. There was a victory for our side when the border crisis was still in the news cycle, and Congress had to do something. And a weak sauce border bill came up there. And I think the Tea Party Patriots might have had a hand in shutting down the phone system, and Steve Scalise had to pull a bill off the floor. Because what?
Well, Tea Party Patriots and Numbers USA, and it was a joint effort among people who care about this issue. There was a very bad, weak border bill going through the House at the end of July before the August vacation for the members of Congress. They may work a little bit more than 40 days a year, but they sure have a lot of vacation time. So the president was asking for more money, which would in essence be a border bailout, and we were against this, and we needed to make sure that people understood it's not humanitarian what is happening on the border. And so the grassroots across the country called Congress, put the pressure on the House of Representatives. They wound up pulling that bill. They put another bill in. The House Republican leadership actually was working with members of Congress like Steve King and Michelle Bachmann and Louis Gohmert, and we wound up with a much stronger bill, and now it's over in the Senate where it has stalled.
Sure, but I think it's a victory.
It is
when
a victory.
When the establishment leadership is going to Steve King and Michelle Bachmann and saying, "Okay, what do you want? I'll take that any day."
It's a huge victory, and the Tea Party movement. We've had a lot of frustrating times, and we knew that we would. We knew we were up against years and decades that we are trying to unwind so that we are more free. And so when we get these victories, we have to understand that we're making progress. And we did make progress with that bill, and it's because the people across this country said enough is enough. We cannot have more amnesty. We have to quit sending these signals. And the House leadership, the House Republican leadership, to their credit, listened. And that's what the House of Representatives is supposed to do.
People's House. People's House. Chris Cabrera, if you could, as an agent, a Border Patrol agent, and an advocate for the agents out there, if you could make one change, any one change, what would it be right now?
I would get our guys back out there where they belong. Our guys need to be on the front line. We need to have our hours. We need to go out there and do what we're paid to do. I mean, anything less than that is just a travesty.
I think, this film as a call to action is a great one. I'm kind of curious about what the motivation is as a call to action. Frankly, the situation has deteriorated on the border, and we've shortchanged guys like Chris Cabrera and these border sheriffs so much. Frankly, we as a country ought to be ashamed of it. Truly. So we can actually get off our fannies and do something about it. And again, borderstatesofamerica.com will tell you how you can take more action. Nick, do you have another political documentary in the works? Anything else coming?
No, but I'm open to offers if anybody's got one in mind. But another thing about the film that I remember not being shocked by is really the state of the actual fence. Where you see that 2.8 mile stretch of actual border fence, and then there's a barbed wire fence that looks like it's your grandma's pasture or something right next to it, and it's just like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, I know. I'm still kind of dumbfounded because if you don't have a border, you don't have a country. We've got a few minutes left. If anybody in the audience would like to throw a question out to the panel, you can do that. Yell. Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Damien, and thank you guys for being up there. And Chris, thank you, because I know you're probably have a lot of things going on in your mind and probably endangering by coming out like this. But I just want to know if anybody up there on the panel has actually read parts of the now unclassified Security and Prosperity Partnership that was signed in by the Bush administration in 2006, which calls, now there's a lot of that Security and Prosperity Partnership plan that's unclassified through Freedom of Information requests through DemoCast. And it's available online now to download. And a lot of the things that are happening today actually fall right lockstep in plan with exactly what's going on today with our border. And it clearly spells out that having a border between the United States and Mexico is a problem, that we need to drop that border. We will not send troops to the border because that's a negative message. We have to implement the North American Union, which includes Canada, United States, and Mexico. And one more second, Tim, please. And then just this month, I'm holding in my hand from the Council on Foreign Relations that is...
This is kind of a rambling question, and we appreciate it, but we do have limited time.
Kevin, you have to repeat your question, so a quick, concise question to you.
Has anybody on the panel heard of that document?
I've heard of it, and back when we were organizing back in 2005 and 6, there was a lot of movement against that. And the whole idea is to make us one continent. And they're doing that. And this has a lot to do with politics and with the people in power, and it is not a Republican or Democrat issue. It has to do, when you look at the people who favor amnesty, They are the billionaires like Zuckerberg and Buffett and others who control our government. And, yes, and they would like to have amnesty because they want to have cheap labor, which is one person in the film I thought put it very, very well. It's slavery. It's indentured servitude, and it is neither moral nor is it compassionate.
Absolutely.
Kevin, they can repeat the question. You can repeat the question.
I will, yeah,
Thank
to the
you.
extent that I can memorize them. Yes, sir. Stand up, please.
I think I can speak loudly enough for everyone to hear me, so he doesn't need to repeat it. I have a project suggestion for Mr. Searcy. I was particularly intrigued with the volunteer efforts of those folks who were riding along the border trying to fill in the gaps for the Border Patrol. They'd done their homework. They weren't armed. They were eyes on the ground. And they filled a very needed niche, it seems to me. And I would think that this would be a very useful project for the next Tea Party documentary to raise a grassroots effort of folks who want to participate around the year in going around and being part of this force of people who are eyes on the scene. And there are plenty of volunteers who'd be willing to do it. Mr. Searcy could
He'll head it up.
and it would raise awareness for the Tea Party generally.
Is there a question? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. My name's Robin Viston. This was an excellent movie. Is this we need every American low information voters watching this because it gets the facts out in an entertaining manner. Is this going to be going to Fox News, to high schools? We need to get this out to the entire nation.
Well, yeah, you can reach out, obviously, to your local media, national media, and Hannity and everybody else, and get them to talk about this film and invite Nick on their show. But this video will be live on YouTube, public, in a few minutes. Okay, the whole film is going to be at borderstatesofamerica.com, and you'll be able to watch it there. So it's now, after this premiere, Tea Party Patriots has put all this money and time in to make a free film. And anybody here who works in the film industry, you know what that means. Okay, they put their money where their mouth is. So borderstatesofamerica.com. As soon as I'm out of this panel, I'm going to go to YouTube and take it live.
Jenny Beth?
I know that I spoke to a few of you here tonight who have donated to Tea Party Patriots. This is the kind of effort and projects that your donations go to. It's available for free. We want to get the message out. There are 19 days left between now and Election Day. Show it to your family, your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers, and encourage your network, your own network around the country to do the same. It's available for you to use, so please take advantage of it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Cabrera, one thing that's always perplexed me in politics, and I think most of the people here, we stand with law enforcement. We support law and order. We support our troops, you guys on the front lines, yet we see your unions always going with the Democratic Party again and again, and then being thrown under the bus at every turn. Whether it's the nurses union up in arms because they're throwing the nurse under the bus because she violated protocol because she caught Ebola, or throwing the mine workers decimating their ranks for unions for the mining that they're shutting down. Where are the border, I'm not asking your personal, I don't want to put you on the spot, but as a border agent, are you guys, and men and women, frustrated with the Democratic Party and you're switching and you're going to be voting more Republican, or is the union really still just kind of lockstep with the Democratic Party?
I say you just put him on the spot.
If you look at our union, if you look at Border Patrol agents as a whole, I mean, part of us, we fit the bill as far as labor, but the other part of us fit the bill as far as Republican, so we're kind of right there floating in the middle. A lot of our guys, most of the time, will vote on the issue, not necessarily with the party. I guess we're kind of, we're a different union with the fact that we are part of American Federation of Government Employees. However, we don't represent normally everything that they go about, or with AFL-CIO, we're kind of a different animal all to ourselves. A lot of issues that most unions have, we see it different because, I mean, let's face it, most unions, they worry about, they changed my chair, or they put the copy machine on the other side of the building. And our stuff is, well, they're shooting at us, we need a lawyer out here, or what are we going to do to get better body armor? So we see things a little differently. We don't have some of the protections other unions have. We don't go on strike. We don't do that stuff. We show up every day. We do our work, and you know, we take home and make success.
And I'd like to add to that is that the one question or one other thought you need to have with that is many of the sheriffs that we met and have, they're Democrats too. There are Republican sheriffs who are just as upset as, you know, with the Republican Party. Democrat sheriffs. That's why when you look at the Tea Party movement, it's not a red or blue. It's red, white, and blue, as Sheriff McDonald said in Carroll County, Texas. So there are people on all political facets who want something done.
Well,
It's not
and
just-
to back you up on that, when the Minutemen first went to the border back in 2005, we were protesting President Bush. And by the way, in the film, Michael Cutler, the INS agent, former INS agent, he's a Democrat. So this is an American issue. And the one thing where I thought that the movie did an excellent job was showing that our agents and our law enforcement with all the local sheriffs, they are doing everything they can with the resources they have. They need our back. We got to have their back to get them more resources and to get these politicians to develop the political will to secure that border, because I trust that they can do the job if we can get the politicians out of their way.
Good stuff. It's about that. We got to wrap this thing up, and we're going to give the last word to Jenny Beth Martin and then Mr. Nick Searcy.
Well, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for helping make this premiere a success. Go back and watch the film. Encourage your family, your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers to do the same. And then go to our website, borderstatesofamerica.com, and we have calls to action there. The first call to action is to call Congress and tell them not to allow executive amnesty and to prevent amnesty. Also watch, because we will have a method for you to be able to download lists that you can call in other states where the Senate is in play to let voters know about this issue and ask them to consider it when they go to vote. So stay in touch with us through borderstatesofamerica.com. Thank you for helping make it a success, and let's get the message out to the rest of America.
Close us out there, Art Mullen. And when you're telling them to watch the film, be sure that you remind them that the film is hosted by Nick Searcy. Awesome. One announcement. When we leave here, we're adjourning to the lounge on floor number 2 if anybody wants to have a social imbibe. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you.